Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is Curtis Selby, your tired midnight blogger, which blogs in this case at 7:40 p.m. Hail to the Connie Cleary, the faithful bird woman of YouTube, one of the great moderators. I don't know how she makes it to so many places. I swear she's got clones of herself. It's like the Virtuosity movie with Michael Keaton. Yep. Very good. Thank you very much. I may need the help on this one. I don't know. It just depends on whether the usual suspects show up or not. I'm going to open the can of worms a little bit deeper. I want to explore the topic of how it is that Trump became so hated. I may not do a great job with that one. Oh yeah, and I know I probably should have been there. I just felt like I needed to do this. I appreciate you guys. I'm sure you're having a wonderful movie. If you don't mind, well, I don't know. Probably doesn't matter. I was going to suggest leaving the link to that watch party, but honestly, I want people to stay, even though the watch party may be a better thing to do. Connie Cleary, knee worries, knee worries. Knee. Oh, what dark times we live in when random tired bloggers at midnight can say knee to women without any contesting. I can't remember the line. I just made it up. But I wanted to talk about how Trump has become so hated, whether or not that's justified. How I had my own journey of going from despising him to respecting and even loving him to going back to despising him to now just really wanting people to just shut the heck up and quit being hateful, whether it's against Trump or Biden. And then I also wanted to do one little news thing before I go to Last Call with Troy Pacelli. Hopefully I can get this done before then. We shall see what we shall see. All right. Hopefully what I'm about to share doesn't get me tossed off of YouTube. I tried sharing this in an earlier post. One of my very earliest ones. One of my very earliest live streams, and a certain person crawled down my throat and asked why I was being so divisive. It's a fair point, so I'll answer that question right now. I'm not being divisive. I'm trying to point out that other people are being divisive. So, without further ado, sadly, even though I know a lot of my liberal friends will immediately disqualify this as an adequate source, I could only find about a 50-second thing on YouTube about this. I want you to remember what happened 2 weeks ago. Think about it, contemplate it, meditate on it. The attempt on Trump's life. And think about it while you're listening to this.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country, and maybe there will be.
People need to start taking to the streets. This is a dictator.
You know, there needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
Enemies of the state.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
Do something about your dad's immigration practices, you feckless.
When they go low, we kick.
How do you resist the temptation to run up and wring her neck?
The biggest terror threat in this country is white men most of them radicalized right up to the right.
I thought he should have punched him in the face. I said, even if you lost, he insulted your wife.
Yes.
He came down the escalator and called Mexicans rapists and murderers. He said, well, what do you think I should have done? I said, I think you should have punched him in the face and then gotten out of the race. You would have been a hero.
I'd like to punch him in the face. I said if we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him.
Punch some people in the face.
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
And I really hate to hear that from Johnny Depp. I thought better of him than that, but I guess we all have our flaws.
They're still going to have to go out and put a bullet in Donald Trump, and that's a fact.
Look, as his character is stabbed to death.
Where is John Wilkes Booth when you need him?
I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
A Missouri state senator is under investigation by the Secret Service after saying she hopes President Trump is assassinated.
And she nearly got her wish. Just making a statement.
I will go and take Trump out tonight.
And if you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere.
And sadly, the domestic enemies to our voting system and our honoring our Constitution are right at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
They're not going to stop before Election Day in November, and they're not going to stop after Election Day. And that should be, everyone should take note of that on both levels, that this isn't, they're not going to let up, and they should not.
If you think we're rallying now, you ain't seen nothing yet.
Now, okay, granted, it's edited, it's a propaganda piece. I accept all of that. But I've been told for 8 years that Trump is a hateful person, that the Republicans are the party of violence and hate. All the while, I'm also hearing this stuff, and that's never brought up. They're never called to account for it. Not that I've seen, not by anyone except for the right and the Republicans. And then they're just disqualified. You know, my friends, not just the media, but my friends taught me to be ashamed of myself for voting for Trump. I take it back. Shame on you for trying to make me feel ashamed about it. Maybe I made a mistake, but I had sure as heck never spouted out hatefulness like that, not toward your candidate. Why is that side? Why is the Republican side branded as hateful and the Democrat side just gets carte blanche to say whatever they want, to threaten whatever they want, to have literal violence and riots in the streets? And I guarantee you, I will probably have friends listening to this and say, I'm the one spouting the hate speech. Well, I don't mean to be hateful, but I am upset. I'm angry. I'm sorry, but I'm angry. I'm angry that I've had stuff forced down my throat for 8 years and not been allowed a say, not been allowed a voice. No, it stops. It stops here. It stops now. It stops tonight. Yeah, but you know, they wanted to arrest Trump for treason. I'm not going to go into that, but when they found those documents, which I may talk a little bit about that. In fact, I think I will. There were all these threats to arrest him for treason. And I don't get the double standard. If you want to say he was a traitor, why aren't these other people traitors? I don't understand it. Maybe I'm just a simple, stupid man. I'm going to bring something up here. It's not very fascinating, but I wanted to talk just a very little bit about my journey as it pertains to Trump. I despised the man. in the 80s and the 90s. I thought he was a rich fat cat. I thought he was arrogant. I thought he was a narcissist. Maybe I was justified in that. Maybe not. It's hard to say from the perspective of time. But I started to watch him on The Apprentice. I don't want to show any of The Apprentice because you can look it up yourself, and I don't want to get dinged for copyright and all that stuff. But I'm bringing up his list of books, and I have a reason for that. Unlike my friends who yell, and I know I should be fair, they're not yelling, but they have actually, like, for the very first time in my life, I've heard hateful words from people that I loved and not understood what to do about it. I still don't know. I'm probably doing the wrong thing by voicing it on here. I probably should just go to them and talk it out. But, you know, when you have a 5-on-1 conversation, it gets hard to be courageous. So I guess that's why, like the coward I am, I'm coming on here where I have a community of people who mostly like me, mostly agree that this has been bullshit. Frankly, I'm probably the least pro-Trump person in this community other than the actual liberals who, look, let's face it, we love them. We respect their thoughts as long as they're clear and logical and not filled with hate. And I think we deserve the same respect. If we don't have our hearts filled with hate, we too. You want to hate Trump and say he's full of hate? Knock yourself out. I don't know the man well enough, even though I'm making some claims here. But I watched The Apprentice, and at least in the first few seasons, it really changed my view of the man. Whoever did The Apprentice, I feel like Trump later on got too influential and too much into the production side of it, and more of his arrogance and bullyingness came through. But the first 2 or 3 seasons, the people who were producing it did a marvelous job at humanizing Trump. They had him share stories about how there was a farmer that stopped and fixed his, switched his tire when he was, for whatever reason, he was driving his limo near the guy's farm, or not driving, he was being driven. And he paid the man's mortgage off. These are things you don't hear, certainly not from the left. Whenever there was someone in the competition who had a death in the family, they asked, but he never even hesitated to say, no, family's first. You go to the funeral. Don't worry about this show. It'll be here when you come back. Now, I know, I can hear my liberal friends now. Well, that's because that's what he has to say. Fine, fair enough. But it showed me that there is a human side to the man. And for years, I've been being told that he's the next mustache man, that he hates blacks, that he hates women, that he hates the LGBTQ community. And I've not been allowed to say it. Those are all lies. Respectfully to my friends, I love you, but you are misinformed. He's got flaws, yeah. He may deserve your hate more than I think, but all of those things are lies. And I'll tell you why. If he was any of those things, it would have come out in the show. Dennis Rodman was having a problem with alcoholism. He paid to get the man put into rehab. Cyndi Lauper came onto the show, and her charity was for LGBTQ. And when she won one of the segments, he doubled the payment to it. Now, I know what you're going to say. Oh, that was all for political reasons. This was before he may have thought about running. And I can hear my friends now. Oh, he was thinking about running even then. Yeah, maybe so. I don't know. I really, frankly, don't care. I'm trying to here's the deal. I don't want this channel to be a pro-Trump channel. I don't want this channel to be an anti-Biden channel. I want it to be a pro-truth channel. I am desperately, maybe foolishly, but I'm desperately trying to get at the truth, whatever the hell it is. I bring up this list of books because I don't know a single one of my friends, even the ones that have supported him, who've read one of his books. It's nothing to brag about, but I've read 3 of them. I read Trump, The Art of the Deal. Granted, everybody and their dog is likely rightly saying that he had a ghostwriter help him with that. It's an amazing book. It's a beautiful book. I really, even now, after my own changes, I think it's a good read if you ever want to do business. I've read Why We Want You to Be Rich by Donald Trump and Robert Kiyosaki, who is the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's definitely a book that not necessarily the Why We Want You to Be Rich, but Rich Dad, Poor Dad, absolutely on my recommended list. If you even think you ever want to do a business, read that one. It's wonderful. Has a flaw in it, but it's still a wonderful book. And I read Think Like a Champion and Informal Education in Business and Life. Kind of a shoddily written book. Here's my point to all this. I never read a racist word. I never read a word in there derogatory toward women. I never read a word in there that was saying that we want to take the rights away from any group of people. The message I got out of those books was that you can do it. You can succeed. You can be a winner. But that positive message, even when it's badly written and badly delivered in the Think Like a Champion, you're telling me that same person hates you, hates everybody. Look, I'm sorry. I'm calling a bullshit on this. I'm going to share something now. One of the channels that's been very influential on me, and one of the reasons why I'm doing a lot of this silly stuff, is Ryan Roger Athay of Reality Base. Now, I love the man. I love his content. He's not for everybody. I do not doubt that most of my friends on both sides of the aisle would look at him and just think, oh my gosh, it's so unprofessional. Although I notice he gets much more professional every month. The guy's growing by leaps and bounds. I love the guy. I don't always agree with him. Sometimes he does say stuff that I'm like, oh man, you shouldn't have said that. But I love the guy. And he's here with his panel, and Will of the Fans is about to say what I've been wanting to say for at least 2 years, if not longer. I talked to Ryan. He's given me permission to share this. Having said that, I'm still going to break it up because I know that YouTube loves to ding on us on these things. But I want to share what Will of the Fans says here.
So I feel that I have the right to weigh in on it. That is where I landed eventually when the time came. And so I've watched as this man who I didn't give 2 shits about for my entire life. Suddenly, who was a massive get for any celebrity event. You got Donald Trump, Vince McMahon celebrating. We're not going to touch Vince McMahon with a 10-foot pole, okay? no one should. I don't want to get shit on my head, okay? But Donald Trump, he's hosting these events. He's got all this stuff. He's a massively successful businessman, and then he takes a shot at the White House. And of course, The Simpsons predicted it, and there's all of that and everything. And this is the only time I intend to talk about Donald Trump. So
Interesting
I'm gushing it all out in one stream. Okay?
Interesting term of phrase, Will. He took a shot at the presidency.
I know, yeah, I know. I kind of realized that as I was saying it.
And thank you, Northern Okie, for showing. I know that this, if you've been listening, has probably been hard for you to hear. I love and respect you, sir. Northern Okie says, when he's scripted, he does pretty well. When he gets flustered and goes improv, he doesn't seem to care much about others. And I will own this on him. And one, I want to make sure that you understand, Northern Okie, when I talk about friends saying hateful things about Trump, you have never said anything hateful about him. You have voiced your dislike, and that's okay. That's completely acceptable and understandable. Sometimes I do feel like there are times when you've taken the party line and swallowed it too much. I say that with respect because I've been there myself. I know, and you knew me then. I used to listen to Rush Limbaugh. I used to listen to Neil Bortz. I swallowed all of the right's propaganda. But I wonder if my friends, maybe we're listening to too much of the other side's propaganda. Maybe we're believing it way too willingly. Maybe we're way too eager to hate Trump. And I get it. I was disappointed with his presidency, 100%. There are absolutely legitimate arguments to make against things that he's done. But I really feel like too many of us are descending into, and this is not you. I've said what I've said, but I've never heard you say something truly hateful against him. I've said hateful things about Biden to you. And I hope that you noticed that once I realized that that was getting on your nerves, I stopped. Because I realized that I was taking my hate too far. I think that some of us have taken our hate for Trump too far. But you are right. When he's scripted, and frankly, the best thing the Democrats did for him was to tie his hands during the debate and make him shut the heck up. It actually helped him out. It made him seem a lot more human. He couldn't throw out as much bluster and foolishness as he usually does. But if it's okay, let's listen to a little more of what Will of the Fans says here. Again, not so much before 2022, but more and more in the last 2 years, I've been feeling this way too.
Yeah, but anyway, The Simpsons predicted it. Everything happened the way it happened. It happened. And as soon as he ran, and then what happens? You go, oh, Donald Trump. That's interesting. Fucking hell. What a funny thing. A man who's already a multi-millionaire, billionaire, and so he can't be bought. He has everything. He needs literally nothing. He is out here saying absolutely everything that the guy in the pub is saying. He seems to genuinely want everybody to prosper and get wealth and get, health and live, laugh, and grow fat, right? And they hate him.
No, and I know, Northern Okie. I know of all of my friends, you're probably the one who's been the best at actually trying to get at the truth and not being blinded. And we all have. I want to give out that caveat. If you listen to any of this and you hear anything that you think is like, Curtis, what the hell was that? That's not fair. we've all been fooled by one thing or another. But I don't think that the answer is to turn around and then be fooled by the other side, because I'm going to assure you, and I know you know this, or maybe you don't, but at least at one time I know you did. The other side doesn't love you either. Whether Trump does or doesn't, I know that I know that I know. It's why I was so angry and upset with Biden, because he promised to unite us humbly. I don't think he did. And okay, yeah, you can say, well, the Republicans did this. And no, the Republicans aren't the ones that tried to prosecute a bunch of people. The Republicans haven't had the power. And I know you all actually believe that those prosecutions were just. I have become convinced that they weren't. Possibly I'm wrong, and no, yeah, 100%. The two-party system is a complete illusion. So, but let's listen a little bit more to what Will of the Fan says.
They fucking hate him. And even my friends in England, they're like, oh, this guy's evil. He's literally Hitler. And it's like,
this is what I've been saying. We hear all of this rhetoric. We hear it 24/7 from the news outlets. We're not getting news reported. We're being told to think a certain way. We're being told to hate a certain person. And it scares the hell out of me that people are buying it, because, again, this is not a channel trying to persuade anyone to vote for Trump at all. At all. But when someone's trying to convince you to hate someone, as the right had done to the Clintons, if you remember, and possibly justifiably so, but they convinced a lot of us to hate the Clintons. You have to look, what's the motive there? And I already know what some are thinking. Oh, yeah, but Trump is hateful too. Well, yeah, he's got a lot of bully and bluster. But having said that, I've been asking myself for at least 2 years, why is there so much hate toward him? I know January 6th justifies some, but it doesn't justify constant. I'll let Will of the Fans talk. He's more eloquent about it.
I'm not seeing what you guys are seeing, So for years I've had to deal with this. For years I've had to listen to this. I have friends here, friends over there who have told me, oh, you got to watch John Oliver, you got to watch Stephen Colbert. And for a while I was watching these guys and I'm like, yeah, they're pretty funny, I guess. Well, Oliver maybe, Colbert never. But and I'm like, I still don't get what the fucking fuss is about with this guy. He's just a man. A successful businessman who just wants everyone to win. What are you complaining about?
Now, he is being a little naive there. Hello, Sashi, the man from the future. Yes, I hate everyone equally too. Very much so. I'm not saying that I quite got to the point of believing like Will of the Fans, but I am sick to death of being told, I can't go to a comedy thing without hearing. I can't go to anything without hearing about how bad. I saw this actually started even before the 2020 election. I remember being in the break room at work, and, for 2 years, constantly the news has been Trump is this, Trump is that. We hate Trump. Trump has done this bad. And I go to the break room, and Aretha Franklin, they announced that she had died. And my first thought was not, oh my God, that's terrible. We just lost a legend. My first thought was, oh my God, thank God there's nothing on about Trump. Now, again, don't get me wrong. There's absolutely things worthy of criticizing of him. But this constant harping and harping and harping, it's actually driven me the other way. It's driven me to start looking at what is the truth of all this rhetoric. And again, I'm not saying Trump's rhetoric is good either, but I'm seeing a lot of lies on the left. And I'm seeing a lot of lies on the left that are being accepted as fact by people that I love and respect. And it scares the hell out of me. Because to be honest, here's the deal. Say whatever you want about Trump. Say whatever you want. He did not turn this country into a dictatorship. And I can hear your thought now, well, he wanted to. Yeah, maybe so, but he didn't. And he won't this time either if he wins. For the same reasons that he didn't then. Partly because, one, he may have some delusions of grandeur. He probably does want to accrue more power than he needs. He has abused the office, but humbly, I would suggest no more, no worse than Biden. I talked about all the censorship. Both sides did it, but Biden did it way the hell more. Or maybe I shouldn't say Biden, but under his administration, it's happening way the hell more. I shouldn't have to worry about this video being stricken, but I do. And maybe that's not Biden, but it's happening under his administration. And remember my argument about the people that were beating up the Navy guy. Maybe Trump didn't order that, but it happened under his watch. It's just as legitimate the other way. This is stuff that's happening under your watch. You're the one that's responsible. Why do I have to cut slack there, but we don't have to cut Trump slack? I don't understand that.
Am I crazy? It's much the same as when I first saw Dr. I was watching these guys and I'm like, yeah, they're pretty funny, I guess. Well, Oliver maybe, Colbert never. But
humbly, my friend, I know you love Colbert, but I lost interest a long time ago. He just, look, again, go 2 episodes without a joke about Trump and I'll still think you're funny. But I've gotten to the point where I just don't want to hear it. I don't want it constantly crammed down my throat.
And I'm like, I still don't get what the fucking fuss is about with this guy. He's just a man, a successful businessman who just wants everyone to win. What are you complaining about? Am I crazy? It's much the same as when I first saw Doctor Who under Jodie Whittaker and Chris.
All right. I'll call it good on that because he goes into other stuff after that. But the long and the short of it is, I felt pretty lonely and alienated for a while. And I know that I'm likely still going to not be liked by certain people, and I can't help that anymore. Once again, this is not a pro-Trump channel. This is not an anti or pro-Biden channel. This is we're trying to find the truth channel. And it is true that the hate and the vitriol have risen to a point where we dodged a civil war by inches. And that scares the hell out of me. There's surely, even if we can't walk it back for the nation, we've got to walk it back in ourselves. This was the blog post I made. This is probably when because again, by January 6th, I was pretty anti-Trump. I was very upset with him. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to say that we should just ignore that we should not have imprison people. Trump shouldn't have some kind of responsibility for that. But at the same time, I can't believe that January 6th justifies anything and everything that we can do, including, anyway. So I started to worry about this situation when they went after him in Mar-a-Lago. I really didn't know what to think of that, and I did the mistake I always made. I tried hard to do my own thinking instead of just taking the party line. If you listen to the right, Trump could just wave a magic wand and all those documents were no longer classified. And if you believe the other side, he was a traitor. He was selling stuff to Russia. He was dangerously, and as always, I felt like the truth was probably somewhere in between. And I still do. But more and more, I'm convinced that Mar-a-Lago was just kind of a sham. I'll read a little bit of this. I won't dive too deeply into it. And I will start with Einstein. You cannot solve a problem from the same consciousness that created it. You must learn to see the world anew. Grammarly says that I sound sad and gloomy. Maybe I should have put up the pic of Einstein sticking his tongue out. So, let's start with the scandal that won Trump his presidency to begin with. Hillary Clinton, her controversial emails. Most of my readers will remember that almost every news agency in 2016 was predicting that Hillary Clinton would win the presidency. Michael Moore spoke about it in one of his documentaries. I still think he gave the best analysis of that election that anyone's given. I'm not saying I agree with his politics at all, but he gave the spot-on analysis. There was a confident hopefulness in the crowd and throughout the land. Well, if you were a Democrat anyway. We were almost certain to have 4 years of Hillary, and why not 8? And the progress made by Obama in certain quarters would be continued with the homespun quasi-intellectual Southern charm that was the graceful New York Senator and Secretary of State, not to mention the First Lady, Hillary Clinton. The first female president after the first black president. Could life get any better? I'll skip ahead a little bit. Essentially, she lost, and there was a lot of upset. There was a lot of anger. And to this day, I don't really thoroughly understand. If you want to talk about, having some justification now, these were people who literally had zero justification at this point to be angry at Trump. They just were. They were just angry. They were just hateful. Sashi has been alone or alienated for most of my life. I realize that being in a position allows you to observe everything more clearly. And sometimes it does. When you're not so thoroughly deep in the echo chamber and you're not talking to your friends and, hey, do you know what Colbert said? Or do you know what Rush Limbaugh said? Or this and that. You have this dangerous tendency to form your own opinions. And sadly, they don't always fit with everyone else's. At first, the race was pretty neck and neck, and I take it back. It was no sin. I no longer feel shame. I feel angry that people tried to make me feel shame for voting for Trump. Maybe it was a mistake, but that's my choice to make, not anybody else's. I felt likely that Hillary would win. I did expect a tighter race than the media talking heads predicted. For a change, I was right. County after county turned in. States largely went as predicted, but the margins were much tighter than predicted. Rural counties saw Hillary being slaughtered, while urban counties were often overwhelmingly going to Hillary. As a small town boy, I saw and still see a lot of significance in this. By 8:21 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Trump was actually ahead in the area that counts electoral votes. Suddenly, the odds looked a lot more even. Suddenly, people were tweeting that Trump's ridiculed statements that there were a lot of people out there who had not been polled who supported him started to have credence. Democrats were starting to feel real terror. I remember this. Real, actual, unadulterated terror. Ohio went red. Florida went red. Lock her up chants started spreading across Republican rallies. Till a few hours before had been quiet and subdued. Democrat rallies suddenly went silent. People who'd been cheering started to burst into tears. Big donors started tweeting their disappointment. News outlets cranked out charts about where they had gone wrong. I would humbly suggest that where they went wrong was by disrespecting the average American person. And I'm still seeing it. I stayed up till 3 a.m. that night. A weary Trump stumbled out. In a hushed voice, he gave a gracious victory speech. Hillary had conceded. He congratulated her on a great campaign, complimented her years of service to the nation, gave some words about how the forgotten men and women of our country will be forgotten no more. Now, you say that was empty rhetoric. And maybe it was. Likely it was. But when you've been oppressed for so long, it resonates. Take care, Sashi. I hope to see you later. And I know I need to get off of here fairly soon. I'm speaking a lot. I will skip ahead a bit, although I still agree. If only we had elected Weird Al instead, would have been so much better. I did an analysis of the scandals. I did an analysis of Mar-a-Lago. But the point is, let's just take a look. What happened to that Mar-a-Lago case? Dismissed. Why? The raid turned up more than 100 documents bearing classified documents. Judge Eileen Cannon, a Trump appointee. Fair enough. Signed a one-page order dismissing the case for lack of jurisdiction. The order filed in the U.S. District Court also terminated all hearings. Cannon in September had appointed retired Judge Raymond Dearie as special master while she blocked the Justice Department from reviewing the seized materials. The Mar-a-Lago raid turned up more than 100 documents. 3-page panel ruled that Cannon should not have appointed the special master, writing she improperly exercised an expansion of her jurisdiction. Dismissal is required. The law is clear. We cannot write a rule that allows any subject of a search warrant to block government investigations after the execution of the warrant. Nor can we write a rule that allows only former presidents to do so. I still don't know where I stand on the whole Mar-a-Lago thing. Having said this, more and more I do suspect that was just bullshit. It was just going after him to go after him. And I would not be here hopping up and down today. Trump would have been a has-been. No one would be thinking about voting for him or anything. I don't think he would have ran at all if they'd have just left him alone. I am almost done. I'm going to change topics here very quickly. I don't know if I did a great job of supporting that line of thinking, but essentially the long and the short is I've heard and heard and heard and heard that he's bad so much that the contrarian in me isn't going to hear it anymore. Not until I see something change. Not until I actually see something that looks to me like a legitimate case. I know I'm just a simple man. I know I'm not a lawyer. All of you assure me that there's proof out there, and if I was just smart enough, I could find it. I haven't found it. All I know is I keep hearing hate, 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 hate. From him, I don't hear hate. I just hear like a non-understanding of people. He evidently just thinks that everyone's supposed to be tough, tough, tough. And in the end of the day, they're not. But I don't see anything that's worthy of our hatred of the man. But I wanted to change gears and end on a positive note. U.S. journalist Evan Gershkovich freed from Russian prison as part of the major exchange. 4 U.S. residents wrongly imprisoned in Russia, including journalist Evan Gershkovich and Marine veteran Paul Whelan, were released Thursday, part of a major multinational prisoner exchange, the likes of which has not been seen since the Cold War. The massive deal cut among 7 nations involves 24 people, including 5 Germans, 7 Russian citizens held in Russia, and 8 Russians imprisoned in the U.S., Germany, Slovenia, Norway, and Poland. President Joe Biden called the deal that had led to the release of the 4 U.S. detainees a fate of diplomacy and friendship. And in no way am I going to try to take anything away from Biden. I don't doubt that his diplomatic teams did a hell of a job, and I'm glad that they're coming home. Connie Cleary, I miss Rush too. I know I'm saying some negative things about him, but I actually loved the man. And I wish that the right had an articulate voice, that someone that actually did understand people, someone that, and maybe I'm missing it. Maybe there's some such person out there, but I don't know who they are. The people I used to listen to, I frankly lost respect for them too, mostly on January 6th. But I want to present something that it may be being reported elsewhere. I know I'm not a reporter. I'm just a tired blogger. But I want to share something that might seem totally unrelated. Does anyone else remember Tucker Carlson and everyone coming down hard on him? And, oh, he's a useful idiot. And all he did was throw softball questions at Putin. And, oh, my gosh, he's a Putin supporter. He's a tool of the Russians. Let's listen to this is near the end of that interview.
Appreciate all the time you've given us. I just got to ask you one last question, and that's about someone who's very famous in the United States, probably not here, Evan Gershkovich, who's the Wall Street Journal reporter. He's 32, and he's been in prison for almost a year. This is a huge story in the United States, and I just want to ask you directly, without getting into the details of it or your version of what happened, if as a sign of your decency, you would be willing to release him to us and we'll bring him back to the United States.
Мы столько сделали жестов доброй воли, что, мне кажется, мы исчерпали все линии.
We have done so many gestures of goodwill out of decency that I think we have run out of them.
Ни разу не ответил. Но
We have never seen anyone reciprocate to us in a similar manner.
что мы
However, in theory, we can say that we do not rule out that we can do that
исключаем того, что мы можем это
if our
сделать
partners
при
take reciprocal steps.
встречном движении со стороны наших.
When I talk about the partners, I first of all refer to special services.
Представители специальных служб.
Special services are in contact with one another. They are talking about the matter in question.
На то, чтобы не решить это.
There is no taboo to settle this
Мы
issue.
готовы ее решать.
We are willing to solve
Там
it.
есть определенные условия, которые
But there are certain terms being discussed via special services
по
channels.
партнерским каналам между спецслужбами.
I believe an agreement can be reached.
Yeah, I think as much as the man was lauded, despised, had vitriol thrown at him, told he was a traitor, I think it's interesting that he asked Putin for the man's freedom, and 5 months later it happens. It might have happened without that. I don't know. But I guess my point is we listen to a lot of rhetoric about people, and we're so determined that these people, that someone's the bad guy, someone's doing it all wrong. And I would posit it's just possible that if all that interview accomplished was to help get that prisoner released, it was worth it. It was a good work. Well, the chronic fatigue is real, and I hope everyone will forgive me, but I wore myself out with this one. So whether it was a good stream, a bad stream, I'm going to call it a stream. I hope everyone has a wonderful evening. Please join me later. Last call with Troy Pacelli. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.